the Chief Global Affairs Officer, to join us for this moment. Please give a big round of applause to all our partners. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Next, we have a short video coming up, bridging these two sessions, which is what we talked about in the first section with Ronnie and the experts over here about the economics of AI, employability, what we can do with students. There's a company called Vahan.ai that has done some incredible work in this space to be able to connect talent together with jobs. We have a short video, and right after that, we'll have Mr. Chris Lehane giving us a talk about what we do at OpenAI.
Given the rise of quick commerce, which is expected to double in the next year, close to 500,000 people are hired in delivery jobs in India every single month. With that growth, obviously, rising the need for a platform that can recruit at high volumes, but also at very, very high velocity. My name is Natham. I'm the founder and CEO of Vahan. We built a marketplace for blue-collar recruitment in India. We are now India's largest recruitment platform. Vahan has developed a marketplace that connects employers with human recruiters. Hello, good afternoon. मेरा नाम अदिति है. क्या आप मुझसे बात करना चाहेंगे? OpenAI is the brain behind our AI recruiter. Today, our AI recruiter supports English and Hindi, but we plan on adding 8 major Indian languages in the next year or so. Jobs is what Vahan focuses on today, but in the future, we think we can use this technology to bring people access to financial services or to educational opportunities or maybe even government services that they haven't heard of. So there's a lot more that this tech will unlock for us and for you in the future.
Thank you. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for those who've hung out for a little bit longer. I know I am standing between you and probably dinner, and given how good the food here is in India, I am very cognizant that I should be pretty quick because I don't want to stand in your way. First of all, great panel. It was awesome just to hear those different thoughts and perspectives. And Ronnie, who I think is one of the most excited people here in Delhi for this Impact Summit. Your parents would be very proud of you. In all seriousness, they were born here, they came to the US, and then to have their son coming and doing an event like this is a tremendous story. So thank you, and Ronnie, thank you for everything that you do at OpenAI, and really want to thank the OpenAI team that has helped put this together and all the incredible work that's been done over the course of this week. And really thank everyone here in the room for participating in this summit. It is really a unique and special moment in time here in India. Yesterday we all heard from the Prime Minister. We also heard from Sam Altman, our CEO and co-founder. And the commonality in what they talked about was really focused on this idea of democratic AI. I think the Prime Minister, not surprisingly, was incredibly eloquent in talking about just how important it is to get that right. And Sam, I think, built on that in his remarks. And something that Ronnie mentioned, I think, deserves some unpacking because it's directly related to this democratizing of AI concept. And Ronnie, you had touched on the capability gap. So let me just unpack that for a couple seconds, because I do think it's at the core of this concept of democratic AI. And so what we know from our research, and really the research that Ronnie and his team do, is that there's something called this capability gap. And what that really means is, the technology continues to accelerate. In fact, there's a recursive nature to it right now. So that acceleration is potentially going to become even faster and faster. And what we're seeing is that there is a subset of users, think of them as power users. And those power users who are using the technology, and Ronnie, I think you did your survey of how people are using it. I'm not sure if the astrologist counts as a power user, but I think some of the other examples, we're getting there, and perhaps it does. But what we're seeing from those power users, so not just those who are using it for sort of a more comprehensive search function, but they're really using it as an assistant, as a coach, as a multiplier of their work, is they are effectively creating a 7x economic impact. So, put that in really simplistic or reductionist terms. If you're at a company and you're a power user of our tools or AI generally, you are likely delivering a 7x value vis-a-vis a non-power user for your employer, or if you're self-employed and using it yourself. And so I think we're really at this moment in time, and we need to begin thinking about how do we close that capability gap, right? Because there's going to be a subset of folks who, left to their own, are going to do very well by this. But we need to be thinking about society as a whole as we go forward. Ronnie, in addition to being a chief economist, is also an academic professor at Duke. A number of the folks up here had academic backgrounds. And we do know that over the course of human history, education ends up being the passport to close these types of capability gaps. And I think as we think about the role of education going forward, there's really three elements to it here. Some of them are touched on in the conversation. The first is access. I mean, access is core to democratizing AI. Here in India, we have 100 million folks who use this on a regular basis. I think about a third of those are students. And amongst the reasons why there's so many people using it here in India, I mean, we have 800 million globally, is because the vast majority are able to access our tools for free. And even the pay version here in India, Go, is a relatively very affordable model. I think it's about $3.99 a month, if I'm remembering correctly, okay. And so that access piece is really important, right? You have to have access to this if you're gonna have any chance to participate in those economics. The second piece, and I think Rupa hit on this, is literacy. And this is literacy in the sense of reading, writing, arithmetic, and AI literacy. And it's really start using the tools. And I get asked all the time at events like this and other events, which should my kid major in college, or what, start using the technology. Start playing with it, using it for astrology. I have friends who use it for sports betting. Just use it in any type, shape, way, or form that you can, because once you start to use it, you will actually become really, really, really good at it. And then the third piece I think is really the most challenging, and what we all have to get right, is the agency piece. This is a technology, and this is a sophisticated crowd, you all understand this, but this is a technology that at its core is a general purpose technology. So what are general purpose technologies? We've got Ronnie, who's an economist, who'll probably come kick me when I do this description of it. But these are transformational technologies that just change the ability of humans to produce. So if you think about, humans have been around roughly 200,000 years. For the first 190,000 of those years, humans produced basically what they could eat. And there was sort of a direct one-to-one ratio. And then about 10,000 years ago, you started to get stuff like the wheel. And later on, you got the domestication of the animals, then the wheel. Then you got steam power, and then you got combustion engine, your printing press, electricity, the transistor. Each one of those drove productivity up higher and higher and drove human progress. This AI is an ultimate leveling tool. It scales the ability of any person, so long as they can talk, to be able to think, to learn, to create, to build, and to produce. But you have to take agency. You actually have to want to use it for those purposes. And one of the things that's very much in my head, and I'm a lot more familiar with the US public education system than certainly the Indian one, so what I'm going to talk about is a little bit more from a US perspective, although I do think it translates. So in the US, the public education system that we currently have was really created at the early stages of the industrial age in the United States. And it was basically designed to help teach folks to come in from rural areas where they had mostly been an agricultural economy and be able to work in factories. So in the US, the time that school started sort of aligned with when factories opened. The fact that you went from classroom to classroom was basically designed to teach you to work on an assembly line. Even the bells that you got to move you around was designed to start to get you to understand and think as if you were working in the factory. There were also other pieces built in, civics courses. I'm old enough that we had home ec and wood shop and other types of things that basically taught you core skills to be able to work in a factory. Well, as we enter into this intelligence age, what is the version of that is going to change how people think and understand? It's almost an ethos that we have to build. Sam often talks about the fact that if you probably look at kids in the school right now, about 20% of those kids actually really do have agency. They're excited to learn this. Maybe the other 80% see it as a really easy way to get their homework done. That's an ethos that we need to change. We need to get to a place where closer to 100% of those students are going to really think about, this is a technology that can allow me to succeed. It can allow me to actually take my labor and not necessarily have to sell my labor or get paid for my labor, but I actually get to own my labor and make money off of my labor. And if you really think about how the social contract has generally worked, it has always been sort of this calibration, maybe a fight between labor and capital. This technology allows folks who are using their labor to be able to actually own it and participate in it in a fundamentally different way. So for us, thinking about that agency piece is really critical. And I'll end this by just saying, I think India is in a unique moment to lead on this, right? The number of folks who are already using this here. I think, Ronnie, you may have mentioned that Codex, which is our developer tool, this is the place in the world where it's growing the fastest. And I'm going to end with a little bit of a historic analogy. I get to sometimes play a technologist on stages like this, and even a little bit of an economist today, but I was a history major in college, so I get to play amateur historian, emphasis on amateur. Everyone has their own favorite historical analogy for this technology, for AI. The one that I've really been thinking about a lot lately, and none of these are perfect. They're not exact replications. It's going to rhyme more than repeat. But the one that's very much in my head these days is the printing press. And I will sort of share two different parts of the world when the printing press came out. So the printing press developed late 1400s. Most of the world was more or less in a very similar economic place. But two places went in very different directions on this. One was Europe, and the other was China. In Europe, because there was a little bit of a baseline of actual literacy from the Catholic Church, and moreover, because it was a fragmented continent with different countries, that fragmentation really allowed people to use the printing press to spread ideas. No one government actually controlled what that was being produced by the printing press, and as a result, you had the democratization of knowledge and ideas and thinking in a way that humans had never experienced at scale up to that moment in time. And there's a direct through line in Europe from the printing press to the democratization of knowledge to the age of discovery, the age of science, enlightenment, the Reformation, and the economic uplift of Europe. The other extreme was what took place in China, which is under the dynasty at that time. There was a real concern that the printing press was going to, in fact, allow knowledge to be spread, and the spreading of that knowledge would potentially generate a challenge to the authoritarian government in place. And so as we sit here at this moment in time, right, there is going to be a huge question as to whether the world is built out on democratic AI or autocratic AI, a centralized version of it. And India is going to have the dispositive voice on how that plays out. This is the world's largest democracy. If the world's largest democracy is able to democratize AI here, that means we're going to be democratizing AI around the world. So this is a moment in time for this incredible country that's going to be playing a leading role, not just for the people here, as important as that is, but for people around the world. And so we feel incredibly privileged to be able to be here in Delhi, in India at this moment. It's amongst the reasons why we don't see India as a customer. We see India as a strategic partner, and not just a strategic partner for us as a business, but for a strategic partner for us to be able to deliver on our company's mission, which is building AI that benefits all of humanity. Thank you very much for being here. It's been an incredible week. Talk to you guys soon.